Hey, hospitality pros, don't miss the Hospitality Hangout Rewind Edition featuring Greg Flynn, founder of Flynn Restaurant Group, the largest franchise operator in the country. Greg shares his journey, leadership insights, and what it takes to build a hospitality empire. Listen, learn, and get inspired. The Hospitality Hangout.
Live from the Pepsi Studios in New York City, it's the Hospitality Hangout podcast featuring the restaurant guy and the finance guy. Everything's better with Pepsi.
Everything is better with Pepsi.
It really is, Jim.
You know what's better with Pepsi? A little Starry.
Little Starry and Tito's is really good.
Throw a little Don Julio and it's Starry tastes great.
I am loving my my new Pepsi mug.
I noticed.
And I got, you know what I'm putting in there, Jimbo? I'm putting a little of this Pure Leaf, which is unsweetened iced tea.
I think you single-handedly keep Pure Leaf. You're like their number one fan.
Oh, it's a big Pepsi product. I'm loving it. We got a great podcast,
Yes,
Jimbo.
we do. And we're going to jump right into it. I have the privilege of welcoming you all more formally to the Hospitality Hangout, a hospitality-focused podcast where the founders at Branded share their insights and bring technology and innovation leaders that are making things happen in the industry we love. My name is Jimmy Frischling, otherwise known as the finance guy. I'm going to bring back my partner, Mr. Michael Schatzberg, also known as...
For my formal introduction?
Also known as the restaurant guy. You want to do a little formal?
You know, Jimbo, I got to tell you, thank you. And to all those listening, feel free to call me Shatsy. And we are the personalities behind Branded Hospitality. And I got to tell you, Jimbo, we are at the intersection of capital, hospitality, restaurants, technology, innovation, and multi-thousand-unit franchise operations. That's who we are.
I always feel when you get to what we sit at the integration of, I always think that's a tell for the guests we have. And I get the privilege again. It's my lucky day. Julie, our producer, allowed me the privilege to introduce you to this episode. And we have our friend, Mr. Greg Flynn, founder, chairman, and CEO of the Flynn Group and Flynn Properties. And while we don't usually do an introduction, we usually let it just kind of come across through the episode. But when you have a guest such as Mr. Flynn,
it's royalty, Jimmy.
When you have a hospitality, royalty, you know what? We're going to share a few details before we bring Greg into the action. So,
I think it's very apropos with going to Chicago for what we like to call the Oscars of the restaurant business, right?
Yes.
That we have an Oscar winner here with us today.
Yes, we do.
You don't get Oscar winners on this show.
Let's drop some knowledge. The Flynn Group, Flynn Properties, over 2,600 Applebees, Taco Bells, Panera, Arby's, Pizza Hut, Wendy's, and Planet Fitness units, collectively combined generating north of 4.5, wait for it, Chatsy, billion in sales.
That's with a B.
Yes, this company employs over 75.
That's a lot of business.
Over 75,000 people, and guess what? 44 states, 2 countries. But wait.
There's more?
There's more.
There's more.
Flynn Group is the largest franchise operator, pause for effect, in the world.
In the world, Jimbo?
In the world.
I'm thinking United States.
In the world. Flynn Properties invest in commercial real estate, has owned and managed more than 3 million square feet since its founding in 1994. Okay? But wait, Chats, you know what?
Don't tell me there's more.
There's more.
There can't be more.
Let's talk about hotels. It owns 121 hotels, including the luxury resorts in Esperanza and Chileno Bay, both located in Los Cabos, Mexico.
Good Esperanza. That's a nice place.
The Caneros Resort and Solage, both located in Napa Valley. The Hotel Madeline in Telluride, and the Huntington in San Francisco.
I know some of these places, Jimbo. These are super deluxe places. These are no like Days Inn and Motel 6.
Clearly, your wife and your wife's family took you.
Not that there's anything wrong with those.
Okay.
These are some nice places.
And now that is the little introduction that I wanted to give of our guest and our friend, Mr. Flynn, today. So look, with that in mind, I think we jump in. And what do you, Shots? Do you want to allow Mr. Flynn to introduce himself? Or you want me to jump right into Trivia Tuesday? Should we let Greg say hello? I think our listeners want to hear a little something.
You know, you got to go Trivia Tuesday because I haven't done my formal introduction of Mr. Greg Flynn.
Greg right now is wondering, like, I'm doing
Why
a podcast.
am I even doing this podcast?
Why am I here? It seems like they're chatting.
Yet.
All right, Greg, I promise we're almost done with the intros. But since we release our podcast on Tuesdays, not to be confused with Taco Tuesday, we have Trivia Tuesday. We're going to have some fun with this because you guys, our listeners, know how the game is played. I'm going to give you 2 truths and a not truth about our friend Greg.
The not truth. The guess.
The not truth is also known as a lie. Shatsy, you're going to guess the 2 truths and a.
I've been excellent with this game lately.
You've been excellent with the game. And for our listeners, stick around to the end of the episode, and we'll have Mr. Flynn tell you which of these are two truths and a not truth. There is a theme to this particular Trivia Tuesday. It all starts with in the dead of the night. It all starts with in the dead of the night. Fact one: in the dead of the night, Greg has climbed to the top of the Story Bridge in Queensland, Australia.
Okay, I could go along with that.
Fact two: in the dead of the night, Greg has climbed to the top of the Tower Bridge in London, England.
I don't know if you're allowed to do that, but okay, let me hear some more.
Fact three: in the dead of the night, Greg has climbed to the top of the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco.
Well, that I know you're not allowed to do. I mean, it doesn't mean you can't do it.
By
I
the
don't
way,
think you're allowed to do that.
Chats, it did start within the dead of night. So, like, one could say it's not during tourist hours in the dead of the night.
Oh.
There was maybe some actions that took place when it would have been otherwise frowned upon by the local authorities.
I'm looking at Mr. Flynn right now. I got to tell you, the guy looks like he's in shape, that he could definitely do all these things.
The fact is, he did two of them. We know that.
He did two.
He did two of them. So to me, the question is, which did he not do?
Yeah, well,
and there you have it.
Yeah, all right. Well, this is going to be a good one. All right, Jimbo. All right. Well, listen. Before we get into it, Jimmy, okay? Because we got one last thing. Because you just talked about Flynn. Flynn Group,
Flynn Properties,
and
yes.
how amazing Flynn Group is, and Flynn Properties, the hotels, the restaurants, the 75,000 employees, the $100 billion in sales. It's unbelievable. But there's a lot more to our guest.
Your Fraser Crane moment with Greg.
How did Greg become? How did he become the largest franchise operator in the entire world at least for restaurants? Well, how about this, Jimbo? How about Brown University, okay? Magna cum laude at Brown University, okay? How about American history, a master of something or other? I don't know what it is. He's very smart. And at Yale University, he got like a master's degree, a very big degree at Yale University, okay? Then a master of literary studies from the University of Queensland in Australia. That could be a hint about the bridge. That could be a hint about the bridge. We know he's been in Australia. He was probably climbing bridges because that was when he was in college, because I could see that. He was in Dublin, spent his junior year. Greg has a dual Irish and American citizenship, okay?
So does my wife.
Speaks 7 languages, has an MBA from Stanford Business School, an honorary doctorate from the Culinary Arts from the CIA. Jimmy, not to be confused with the the intelligence agency. I think he has that also. I think he also is a member of the CIA and the Culinary Institute of America. He's on the board of the National Restaurant Association and the International Franchise Association. He loves history. He loves travel. And without further ado, Mr. Jimmy Frischling. Now we can actually bring in our guest, Mr. Greg Flynn. Welcome to the show. I think this will be the first and only time you'll ever do this podcast. There we go. There's the intro music. Mr. Greg Flynn, chairman of the board. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for
having me. Did I get anything right in my introduction?
You win the award for the longest, most rambling introduction I've ever had.
We've been accused of that. It's great to have you here. Tell us, did I get anything right on my intro?
No, you got nothing right whatsoever. It was all total fiction. It was very amusing, though.
It was nothing? I mean, did you at least go? Did you go to Yale?
I did go to Yale.
Okay, good. All right.
It was all right except the 7 languages.
Yeah, by the way, you stuck that one in there, and I was like,
well, I just figured he probably speaks a few languages. What's wrong with 7?
7 is a good number. You know what they call someone who speaks more than one language?
What?
Bilingual. You know what they call someone who speaks one language?
What?
American.
Okay, there we go. All right, Jimbo, let's get into it, man.
I'm a good American.
I'm a good American as well. Listen, Greg, we are really excited to have you on, and I think our listeners will know that long intro was we felt given the success and the leadership you've displayed in this industry. Certainly justified us making sure we gave proper accolades and otherwise. I want to make sure Shatsy may not have gotten his stuff right, but as the finance guy at the company, I want to make sure I got my stuff right. 460 Applebee's, 280 Taco Bells, the 3rd largest Taco Bell franchisee in the world, 112 Paneras, the 2nd largest Panera franchisee in the world, 360 Arby's, the largest Arby's franchisee in the world, 1,200 Pizza Huts, largest Pizza Hut franchisee, and 190 Wendy's. And,
a lot of restaurants.
and clearly Julie is favoring me lately because I get to break news. The Flynn Group has just announced a major international expansion. In addition to owning over 270 Pizza Huts in Australia, you're now the master franchisee of Wendy's Australia and the owner of 20 Wendy's in New Zealand. So I think I get to break the news. And
breaking news,
before Flynn was Empire and international expansion, it all started with your local West Coast brand, World Wraps. So there's always a beginning. Can you share more about how you ended up buying World Wrap with a friend from Stanford Business School? By the way, Chatsi, I think you got that one right. We got a Brown, Yale, and a Stanford. That is a hell of a trifecta.
Yeah.
That led you to acquiring 8 Applebee's. So that was that the official start of the Flynn Group, the World Wrap, and then moving into the Applebee's? Is that where it all started with you and a friend from Stanford?
So that's where I started in the restaurant industry as an owner-operator. I actually started in the restaurant industry, as many Americans did, and one of many people in the world, as a hourly at McDonald's, and I was in high school.
We've got so many started like that. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's amazing. But yeah, I got in the restaurant industry through World Wraps. It was not a concept I started. It was started by my friend Keith Cox from Stanford Business School and his partners. And they opened their first restaurant in San Francisco in 1995 to, lines around the block. It created the wraps category. Wraps didn't really exist as a category before that. And I had made a small limited partner investment, but it was their business. But I had started a real estate business 6 months earlier, and I bought some buildings up in Seattle. And so everyone got excited. It's like, oh my God, we've obviously got the next Starbucks on our hands. But the dangerous one, gets there first. And so it's a classic mistake that people make. And we made that. So we shook hands, and I became a licensee developer of World Wraps in Seattle. And between 95 and 99, I built 14 of them. And it was the school of hard knocks. I mean, everything was hard, but that's where I really cut my teeth on building and running restaurants. But that's not really where Flynn Group began. I view that as sort of a separate prelude to Flynn Group. Flynn Group really starts with the acquisition of 8 Applebee's restaurants in 99 in Washington. And that's when I just pivoted in the industry entirely. And we handed the World Wraps business off to our CFO. He actually ran it for a couple of decades, but decided to focus everything on big franchise chains.
I like it. Talking about casual dining. So you really started out, you started the wrap concept, at least from an investment point of view. You were in the McDonald's as an hourly working there, which, like I said, so many of the folks that we meet in the restaurant business. I started as a bartender, Jimmy as a bar back or dishwasher, and then a bartender. But you really went heavy into casual dinings with the Applebee's, and that was big in the 90s. But today, it seems that fast casual seems the buzzword today. It seems like that's where all the action is right now. What can you just give me a little bit of what your thoughts are and what has contributed to this shift? That, when we were growing up, like you said, you start with 8 Applebee's, you have like 1,400 Applebee's, something like that, 1,500, 2,000, some enormous number of Applebee's. But now things are kind of shifting today, and it seems like a lot of the younger generation are much more into the fast casual, more grab and go kind of thing. What have you seen has contributed to that shift, and where do you see the industry going as we continue in the next 10, 20 years?
Well, one of the main reasons to be diversified in the industry, and we're diversified as to segments and brands, is that you don't know for sure where it's going. And so when we got into Applebee's, it was the leader in casual dining, and casual dining was the hot segment.
How many stores when you had those 8, how many did they have at that time? Do you remember?
They were probably just crossing 1,200 or something at the time.
Oh, really? Okay, so it was pretty big already.
It was already like a meaningful chain.
Yeah, right.
Maybe it's less. Maybe it's 1,000.
Right.
But,
still a lot.
We picked it because it was the clear leader in the hot category.
Right.
And people need to remember that. So now they look at casual dining, and sometimes they think, oh, that's sort of yesterday's segment. And I actually dispute that there's not an ongoing role for sit-down dining with liquor. I think there is, but. And they have almost a hubris around, oh, that's not what people want anymore. What people want is, counter service food that isn't drive-through fast food, right?
Mm-hmm.
This in-between segment. And that may be true now, but like it may not be true 10 years from now. You just don't know. And so it's, from my point of view, best to have a flag in each of them and be there if it turns out to be the hot segment. There are only two national players in fast casual. It's Chipotle and Panera. And then there's sort of that next rung of really promising, but not there yet, national concepts like Kava, Sweet Green. Those are good businesses, but they are young, relatively young businesses. Chipotle and Panera have been around for a while, but like compare them to, certainly McDonald's and KFC, but even Applebee's that have been around. Applebee's been around for 45 years now, been through many economic cycles.
Sure.
Proved its legs over every geography, has broad demographic appeal. It's at a different level of proof point.
Don't count Applebee's out just yet, right?
I know. And, it is true that too many casual dining restaurants were built in the 90s and early 2000s, and they are being winnowed down. And even Applebee's has closed, appropriately a number of restaurants. You got to trim the plant to keep it healthy. But there will, as I said, I think always be an important role that sit-down dining with liquor plays. Like there's always going to be deep demand for it, and someone's going to make money selling into that demand. And Applebee's is better positioned than anyone else to do so. And we had a very good year last year. We're having a good year this year.
That's great. I love it.
Two things.
And by the way, we just bought 26 more Applebee's in Florida. And we just signed a development agreement for 25 Applebee's with the franchisor.
So you're bullish on Applebee's.
We see the whole industry.
No, two things I heard as you guys were chatting. One is that Greg, cut his teeth in hospitality at McDonald's. And Schatz, you and I have met so many executives and CEOs. I mean, we did a 6-part podcast on the road. 5 of the 6 CEOs had started as a dishwasher.
Yeah.
And I still feel our industry, of course, we have a lot of work to do. And of course, we'll always be striving to get better. But the democratization of this industry to me is astounding. When I think about how many people cut their teeth. I started in high school. It was a gig job. It was all cash. And I started as a busboy at a bar back. And then, just continued to, and I left the industry, and now I feel very lucky to be back. The other thing,
I'm going to do a coffee table book, Jimmy, not on coffee tables, okay? No, I'm going to do a coffee table book. I'm going to take all the operators, like all the big CEOs, and have a picture and where they started. Yeah, because I got to tell you, it would be an incredible book, and I think it'd be a lot of pages.
It's a great book. And by the way, if you don't move quickly, somebody's going to take that idea. And
I've already trademarked everything, so nobody do that.
By the way, the other thing Greg talked about, and he used it very casually, but it's so important, is diversity. And I think about it as, for our own investment business, I love how people always want to cherry pick what they think is the best idea. But at the end of the day, things change, times change, trends change, and diversity really is your friend. But Greg, when it comes to running a successful and profitable, operation, clearly you and your team know a thing or two and have had great success. But you've shared that one of the pros and maybe one of the benefits of joining a mature and established brand as a franchisee is that, what I entertain is your life is easier. You're not worrying about, let's say, the distractions that come maybe with the brand development or even the menu or the marketing tools. And you get to really focus on being the best operator that you can be and really delivering for your guests and your employees the best experience for them. Can you share, if you don't mind, your secret sauce? How do you run your operations? Because you've been a buyer of established brands and then clearly succeeding as an elite operator. So can you talk a little bit about that for us?
Well, operations are at the heart of everything we do. It's our top priority. It's probably our top 3 priorities, really. And the whole organization is focused on it, and our whole support network doesn't exist but to support operators in the field. That's the one thing which is hard to do consistently over multiple brands and geographies, and essential to do, if you really want to succeed in the long run. And it's the key differentiator. And when we look at all of these opportunities where, it may involve a lot of money because these are valuable businesses or body or whatever, but there are a lot of people with a lot of money. What we can bring is running it well afterward. That's the hard part. And that's sort of the magic. It's like, if you can really be an excellent operator and have enough financial, sophistication, access to capital, and, deal expertise. It's a very rarefied, competitive environment. And often we find ourselves in opportunities where we're the only ones, who can do it. But, you're right. And then the other thing is being a great operator is in and of itself a gratifying thing. And I think our team takes a lot of pride in being, a premier operator. And we take a lot of satisfaction in the recognition we've gotten around that. So for instance, last week at the National Pizza Convention, Flynn Pizza Hut was named Franchisee of the Year, which is not an easy thing to do when you're, the biggest, and you think a lot of large numbers would kick in and you'd be at best average. We're not average. Like, we really outperformed.
That's a very big award. That's the crowd. The crowd's going nuts right now.
Yeah, that's okay. And then for 2023, we were named Applebee's Franchisee of the Year for the 5th time. And we're the largest. We're 28% of the system. So it's hard to do it when you're small and don't have the averages working against you. It's harder to do it when you are doing it over very large numbers. But we're dedicated to that, and we've been able to attract the best people in the industry and to support them with the best above store support systems. And it all adds up over time. And this is a long game we're playing. It's a game of inches, and if we outperform a little bit every year, it just compounds into higher AUVs and higher margins and more success and the ability to reinvest in the assets and the people. And, you get this success flywheel going that really helps you distinguish yourself.
That's awesome. I think, that's amazing. I just can't even imagine having, we've got restaurants here in New York City. We have 17 units. My head spins with that. I can't even imagine the operations team you have managing all what's going on, your supply chain, procurement, the HR department. I can't even imagine it. But you have, but it's really interesting. You've been in the restaurant space now, I'll say, for 30 years running Flynn Hospitality. And everybody knows Flynn Hospitality. You are really like the gold standard. But recently, you made a little pivot. You rebranded as the Flynn Group. And I read in the news, Planet Fitness, and you guys go out and buy Planet Fitness, and now you got Flynn Fitness, and now, this is like, very different from the restaurant space. Maybe everyone needs to go to the gym after they eat at Applebee, so maybe that's, the idea here, right? After you eat at Applebee's, go to Planet Fitness, but is this a change that we're going to see more from you guys doing other type of retail business, a different direction, going away from restaurants, or is it just again diversifying and just saying, hey, I love fitness, I climbed every bridge in the world, and this is going to help me continue to climb bridges by going to this fitness craze?
Well, you can think of it as the great circle of life. It's vertical integration. We feed them and we slim them down.
I love it. Yes, that's what I was thinking. Go to Arby's and then go to Planet Fitness next door.
Yeah, we'll give you 5% off. So you can think of our growth and our whole, very deliberate evolution in chapters. So chapter 1 was growing Applebee's to be, we'd like to think premier, multi-state operator at scale. And that's when everything in Flynn Group was formed. Our structure, our culture, all of the systems, the core team. Chapter 2 was taking that platform and diversifying within the restaurant industry as a franchisee. And that's when we said, okay, what do people want from restaurants? Well, they mostly want quick service restaurants. I think the evidence is there just by virtue of how many quick service restaurants there are. And so if we're going to truly reflect demand, we need to become a quick service restaurant operator. And we did that over the next 10 years. So we're 60-70% QSR now. We've got a big fast casual flag with Panera and then Applebee's, of course. So chapter 3 is we're going to continue to grow in our big center lane as a domestic franchise restaurant operator. But we layered on 2 new growth channels. So one is international that you talked about before. Right. And the other is adjacencies. And by adjacencies, consumer-facing franchised operating businesses where we feel we can take our experience and our platform and our team and execute well, because it's not that different. Like running a Planet Fitness gym is not that different than running a restaurant. If anything, it may be a little less insane, right? Because, it's a subscription business, there are fewer employees, there's sort of less craziness. Now it has its challenges, and, we want
no kitchen, less supply chain issues, I suspect, right?
Yeah. And it's a wonderful, wonderful business. And then you look at the way we got in it. We bought a franchisee named Alder Fitness, run by a great guy named Stanley Martinez. He's now our partner. He actually rolled some of his money into us, and so he's literally my financial partner now. And we hope to grow in Planet Fitness because it's just such a great business. But there are other consumer-facing operating businesses that operate under a franchise model that we could also look at. So, we talked about hotels. Hospitality is one of them. Almost every Hampton Inn, Hilton Garden Inn, Courtyard, they're franchise businesses. And they're usually run by, some third-party operator, but they don't have to be. And so, we could seriously become an owner-operator of those. We already own a bunch.
Are you giving us a hint right now that the Flynn Group's next acquisition will be Hilton Hotels? Is that what you're saying? Or Marriott? Are we dropping that right now? This is better than CNBC doesn't have stuff like that, Jimbo. CNBC doesn't have this.
You cracked the code,
Greg Flynn is buying Marriott.
You did the whole usual suspects. You mapped it out. You figured it out. I went
Hilton, then I'm like, you know what? No, go bigger. He's buying Marriott. I love it.
What I liked about that whole banter and discussion, really, because Shatsy, you're our restaurant guy, and I think the word hospitality is really more of how one engages with a guest or a customer. Of course, you want to be hospitable in a restaurant, and you're going to feed them, but not so dissimilar to how you enter a hotel and how you're greeted, or your gym. I mean, Planet Fitness, a well-known, absolutely legendary brand that, at the end of the day, it's hospitality. How do you welcome your guests? How clean's the facility? How organized is it? It has its differences. But at the end of the day, it is still trying to exceed the expectations of your customer or your guest. Greg, my understanding is there was a moment where your original career goals may very well have been to go into real estate. You fell into the restaurant business and certainly have done quite well.
I'd argue he's dabbling in the real estate biz with 87,000 restaurants.
Now we step outside the restaurant space with Planet Fitness. And now we've come full circle, though, because I teased at the top of the episode about Flynn Properties and investing in commercial real estate. And can you share more about, this new line of business? I mean, to me, I imagine it makes an unbelievable amount of sense if you think about your operating businesses and now applying the, property operations. I see it as synergistic, but can you share the Flynn Properties and what the focus and strategy is for that part of your portfolio?
Yeah, so, I had a background in real estate before business school, working in New York and London. And I came out and I started with like a little real estate equity fund and started buying little buildings, like distressed buildings from lenders in the mid-90s. And that was a great time to do it because you
have the same as the disaster, right?
It was like literally shooting fish in the barrel. And so we had a good run with that. And that was almost entirely an office building business. And we are market timers with office buildings. Like, I think they're a very cyclical asset class. And you can do everything right with an office building in terms of like redeveloping and running well. But if you get the timing wrong, like, you're screwed. If you get the timing right, you almost don't need to do anything else right. Now, it's the best if you can do everything else right. And get
right, sure.
So we've been in and out of office buildings. And in this latest cycle, we were lucky enough to sell our whole portfolio leading up to 19. We still have one building, and that's like a headache. But starting in 2006, we purchased our first resort. It was Esperanza in Cabo.
That's a beauty.
We had focused on mostly these luxury resorts, partly because I really like them. I also think you can make good money at them.
Nice place to go on vacation.
From our growing restaurant business that scale really matters. That, there are such advantages, such power in scale. And there is not a scale business for boutique luxury resorts. And that's when, starting in the late teens, I would set the pivot in hospitality toward the, extended stay and select service hotels. Because just like, branded franchise restaurants, you can do it at scale. And that's what we're doing. So our plan is first to build up a meaningful portfolio. We've done that. We have 115 of them. and then to seriously look at becoming the owner operator of those ourselves. But I first wanted to go to school on, all of the great third-party operators who are currently running it.
That's awesome.
And I don't know if we'll do that, but like it's irresistible to think about it, right?
And you can stick Planet Fitnesses in all these hotels, right? And you can stick an Applebee's in there. So you get the hotel, you got the Applebee's, and you get the Planet Fitness. Right? Am I wrong?
I'm going to defer to Greg and his team.
Why not?
You work out, you eat, you go to sleep.
Every hotel has a gym. They never leave the property. Yes, it's incredible.
I like this. We'll have a funeral home right next door for the
literally cradle to grave. I like that. Listen, before we move on, maybe I'll just ask any advice, Greg, you would give to budding operators or franchisees, maybe who are now getting into the game. And I think one of the fun things that we're seeing in the space that Branded plays, we are seeing some really interesting emerging restaurant groups, restaurant companies. So any advice you'd give to them? You're standing with a portfolio that is clearly a best in class and successful and has scale. Any advice to emerging operators or franchisees getting into the game, let's say today?
Yeah, I'd give the advice I always give, which is, be an operator. This is not about buying stuff. It's not about finance. If you're going to be in the hospitality industry, you need to be really, really good at that. It's very competitive. There are a lot of people out there who are trying and are very good. And if you are less than excellent, like it's sort of like timing with office buildings. Like you could do everything else right, but if you don't get that one right, you're not going to succeed.
I think that's really great advice. It sounds pretty simple and trivial, but I think a lot of people fail to remember it's the hospitality business, Yes. It's remember when we talked to somebody and they said, it doesn't matter what the food's like as long as it gets there fast. I'm like, what?
Schatzy's one of the most, Greg, Schatzy's one of the most positive people I know, but I never saw him get more insulted and upset when the person said the food doesn't matter. It's how fast you can get it to them. I agree with you, Greg and Shatsy. We're not a tech business. We're not a finance business. We are a people, service, experience, value. We're a food business. And then the rest are supporting actors.
Let's jump into real quick. Greg, we're going to do a little hot or not. Are you ready to play?
Sure.
All right, I got a quick game. I'm going to give you 3 words or phrases. You let me know if it's hot or not. Virtual kitchens.
Not.
Drone delivery.
Hot.
Ooh. Espresso martinis.
Super hot with my children.
Jimbo.
You care to opine on that?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. In fact, we just had our friends and partners from Ripples. They are Ripples prints on foamy drinks and foamy cappuccinos, espresso martinis, foamy desserts. They are going to be so excited that Greg said super hot, especially
super hot.
But I'm since you were hot on 2 of them and very hot on one of them, I want to go the one that was let's say a fail or not hot, the virtual. Shats and I had a lot of views on the whole virtual kitchen and the whole ghost kitchen, dark kitchen, whatever you want to, the naming convention on it. You went with a solid not. Maybe can you chat a little bit or maybe speak a little bit about that? Because there was a moment where that was, the in vogue thing for people to be leaning into and doing. You went with a solid not.
Certainly a lot of venture money
a lot of money got thrown at that. Maybe you can comment on that. We have our own thoughts, but you're in the weeds.
You're the Oscar winner, baby.
So would love to hear your thoughts on that. Was a solid not. Can you expand on that a little bit?
So I think there are a number of reasons why it's a not. I think first and foremost, what they're doing is they're bringing, food production capacity to markets, but there's already more of that than there is demand for.
Ding, ding, ding.
That's why
100%, man. We don't need more kitchens.
Yes.
Now, the argument they make is like, but those aren't the right kind of kitchens or they're not in the right place. And there's something to that.
Yeah.
The second is that off-premise is an important part of meeting demand. And it is a great complement, I think, to on-premise. But I don't think in and of itself it's optimized. The best is where you can cover the fixed costs of a restaurant, by combining on-premise and off-premise. Trying to do only one or the other is just it's suboptimal, right?
Right.
Now, if you look at some of these operators, they have worked out very good technology around this. Like, I do think that they are allowing some concepts to succeed, in just this off-premise, mostly delivery format.
Right.
Some are also trying to incorporate an on-premise experience, walk up, things like that.
Right.
And they're evolving as they go. But, I think generally speaking, we're still better off running off-premise out of an existing on-premise location and take it from $2.5 million to $3 million versus $0 to $500,000,
Hey, that's spot on.
No, completely agree.
I got to tell you, Greg Flynn is smart.
You think so?
I think he's smart.
By the way, let's take that clip and let's make sure we do.
He knows something about restaurants.
Not this part. I meant the part where he's trying to articulate the off-prem versus the on-prem and how they can complement each other. I always, to your point, when they were trying to solve for excess kitchen capacity, I'm like, well, that's silly. We got a lot of kitchen capacity. And then the idea, and I thought when people approached us with the delivery only, the virtual or the dark kitchen only, we kind of felt we knew who the winners were already going to be. It's the people that were succeeding in brick and mortar.
You own a restaurant, you know what you're doing.
The people that actually knew how to manage their supply chain, their inventory. They had their manuals and they had their procedures in place. And that's hard. It's, as you know firsthand, really hard to do. Now do that in a shipping container in a garage. And I got to tell you, we're destined. I really had a question. I questioned that whole model, but you know what? I'm a free markets people. We didn't put money in there. Other people did. To each their own. But all right, there you have it.
But I think we were spot on. All right, Jimbo, I think we're going right to Trivia Tuesday right now, right?
Yes. So here's the point. I'm going to quickly give you the factoids, our 3 factoids about.
I've been thinking about this the entire cast.
And you've been listening. You heard a little Queensland. You heard a little England.
I heard.
You heard the West Coast. You were paying attention, Shatsy.
Greg was dropping nuggets of info. I don't know if he knew he was doing that, but I've been picking up on it.
Yeah, basically, he's basically lived in each city where that bridge exists. He gave you that. Okay, just as a reminder, here are the 3 factoids. 2 are true, 1 less so. Each happened in the dead of night. Greg climbed to the top of the Story Bridge in Queensland, Australia. Greg climbed to the top of the Tower Bridge in London, England. Greg climbed to the top of the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. All is keyword chats in the dead of the night. What do you say?
Yeah, I'm going to go with this, Jimbo. I'm thinking, and this could be completely wrong, and I don't know where Greg is from. I don't think we got to where he was born and raised.
You pausing for effect? I wasn't sure.
I was thinking he was going to say something to me. I was going to say, well, actually, I'm from San Francisco.
I was born and raised, and I live in San Francisco.
There you go.
Oh, see, that kind of threw me. Because I was thinking you were young when you were in Australia, and you were young when you were in England, so you were like doing kind of stupid things because you were young, and so you're like, I could climb that.
He can climb all 3 of those right freaking now.
Well, no, I know he can. I know he can, but it's like, when you're young, you do kind of things that you make,
So what do you think?
I don't think he was on the. I think he did not climb to the top of the Golden Gate Bridge. I just don't think that happened. I feel like.
All right.
I feel like they have like SWAT teams out there.
So you feel like he played an away game. He went when he's more than 1,000 miles from home.
He's like,
he climbs a bridge.
I can do whatever I want. I'm an American.
Yeah. All right, Greg. Schatz is locked. He's locked.
I'm locked in.
He's locked in. He's saying.
All right. Well,
he's saying the false city was San Francisco.
Shatsy, you are wrong.
Aha.
I'm sorry about that.
My thought process is totally wrong.
The lie is the Tower Bridge in London. I did not climb that.
Damn it.
But the other 2 are true. And, the Story Bridge in Brisbane was just finished exams. There's something called the Story Bridge Hotel, which is a pub. Spilling out of the pub late at night, looking up and going, "Oh, we could totally."
All right, so I was the right thinking process that you were young and drinking, and like we could do that. Okay.
So, and it went really well until the police boats pulled up below, and the policemen started climbing up to us and arrested us.
Oh man! So by the way, go ahead. What about San Francisco?
I know, and then. So the Golden Gate Bridge was the same sort of thing, at a party in high school senior year. And I had a friend who was a legit climber. And he's like, I'm going for the bridge tonight. I was like, I ought to come. He's like, let's do it. And went back to his house, got climbing gear, and then went to the bridge. The way you did it is it's on the north side, the Marin County side, on the west side. And you have to go through the superstructure of the bridge under the roadway to get to the base of the cable then you climb on the outside onto the cable. And this is the risky part. It's like 2 a.m, but like if you're going to get seen, that's where you're going to get seen. And we have stuff to clip into the, sort of hand guard, the guardrail cables. But to avoid being seen, you have to sprint up the cable for like the first, call it 150 yards as it begins to rise and get above the roadway. And then you slow down and clip in, and then you climb the rest of the way. And it gets pretty steep, toward the top. But we did all that, hung out there for like an hour in a moonlit night, made it back down, and lived to tell.
No arrest on San Francisco.
No arrest on.
Wow, that
was before 9/11. Like nowadays, I don't think.
Okay.
That they're
well, Jimmy, I got to tell you, my thought process was right. I knew he wasn't doing it like, this was when he was young and he was innocent and naive, probably a couple of beers, maybe. But I had the right idea. But I should have asked where he was from. If he would have told me if he was born and raised in San Francisco, I would have changed my mind. If you want to do it again, I can get it now.
Despite my growing up in New York City and living in and around very tall buildings, I'm actually afraid of heights. Heights.
I can see that.
So, by the way, when I was reading when I was reading these climbs, these heights, and even as Greg was just describing the act of sprinting 150,
you had a panic attack
before he could clip in, or he had to climb on the outside. That's what the risk takes. I got to tell you, I felt it in my knees.
A little panic attack there.
I felt it in my knees a little bit.
All right, Jimbo, I got to go right into branded quickfire because Mr. Flynn's got to go buy the Marriott chain that we talked about, or Hyatt.
It's Hilton.
Hilton Hyatt. He's buying something very big. I can't wait for that announcement to come out and everybody to be like, Shatsy, you were right, baby. You were right. All right, Mr. Flynn, we're going to play a little branded quickfire. Are you ready, sir? 5 lightning round questions. Don't think too hard. This is what I like to call, this is truly the Olympics of podcasting. This has been ranked and rated by Nielsen and Technomics as the greatest podcast segment of all podcasts outside of Joe Rogan's podcast. He has slightly better ratings, but this, with you're going to bring it up. Okay, here we go. If you could eat dinner with anyone in the world, dead or alive, who would it be?
Alexander Hamilton.
Wait, who?
Alexander Hamilton.
I didn't hear.
Yes,
this year doesn't hear so good. Get mad at me. All right.
In the room where it happens, baby.
Why? You love Hamilton.
So you guys just froze for me for like 30 seconds. Did I freeze for you?
No, I think you were good. Probably good that we froze.
Yeah, it's probably good because I didn't hear what chat.
By the way,
Alexander Hamilton. That's a great answer.
Yes.
Great answer. All right, Jimbo, how's that?
Yes, that's good.
What's the most used app you have?
Google Maps.
Favorite food city in the world?
Paris.
Favorite sports team?
Giants.
The San Francisco Giants or the New York Giants?
San Francisco Giants.
Oh,
okay.
I was about to celebrate. I was like,
I was like, wait
a second.
Greg's a Giants fan.
He's got his own Giants. He's got his own Giants.
He's San Francisco.
He's got his West Coast Giants.
Exactly, yeah. All right, if you were to challenge Jimmy or I to a game of Hungry Hippos. You know that game, right? Hungry Hippos. Maybe
it's been a while.
It's been a while. Who have better odds of beating in Hungry Hippos, that fabulous board game that everyone loves?
I want to help Greg for a second here. I have a 7-year-old daughter. Just want to throw that out there. I have a 7-year-old daughter.
Well, Greg, how old are you? Do you have children?
Yeah, I got 26-year-old twin boys and a 22-year-old girl who's graduating.
Oh, so we have similar age. I have 19, 21, 23. Yeah, so we haven't done Hungry Hippos. That's a terrible question for Greg.
I'm just telling you, I just want to help Greg out.
He hasn't seen Hungry Hippos.
I already know. I'm going to take shots on that one because he hasn't.
You could beat me.
He hasn't described any comparative advantage, whereas you have. So.
Yes. I'm just telling. I was kidding. I was trying to help Greg out.
There's a compliment there somewhere. I'm sure.
There's somewhere. Like literally, I was at Dave and Buster's recently playing the large Hungry Hippos. There's a giant size game. My daughter thinks it's hysterical.
All right. Well, to make you feel better, we've done about 200 podcasts now, and I think I've lost to Jimmy almost everyone. Everyone always. We have people don't even wait for the question. They just say Shatsy.
Who did better odds of beating Shatsy? In what, Shatsy?
It doesn't matter. I could beat Shatsy in anything.
Greg, we want to thank you so much for spending time with us and being on the podcast. We absolutely do love what you and your crew are doing. It's really, there's nothing easy about this industry, but there is big love that people have for it. And you guys are playing at the top of the game and really do commend you and the team for the excellence and just being such great operators that these brands want to trust you. with their brands, with their stores, and with territory. So congrats to everything you're doing. To our listeners, if you want to get in touch with Greg directly, you can email the podcast team at brandedstrategic.com.
I have Greg's cell phone.
That was a season 1 rookie mistake. We don't do that anymore. Greg, you're safe.
I feel like Greg wants to get in touch with his customers. He wants to really know who his customers are, so they should hit him on his cell phone anytime.
And we can do that by people emailing the podcast team at podcast@brandedstrategic.com, and then we will send the message along to Greg and his team. And then finally, to our listeners, just as Shachi said, we're well up and over 200 episodes. We're into 100,000 subscribers now, and none of this is possible without you. So we greatly appreciate the industry and all you listeners checking in with us. And we like to have some fun with each other and with our guests, but we also like to bring guests who can share knowledge about what's going on in this industry that we do love so much. So Greg, with great appreciation, I'll thank you, and I'll pass it back to my friend Shachi to close us out.
Yeah, Greg, this was awesome. Appreciate you. Appreciate everything you're doing over at Flynn. It's not Flynn Hospitality now. It's the Flynn Group.
And Flynn Properties.
Flynn Properties and Flynn Fitness. And, I just can't wait to go to that Esperanza Resort and throw your name around a little bit. Get that discount over that I'm looking for. Hey, this is great. Cheers, everybody.
You're welcome. Just bring a little dinero.
Dinero.
Poco dinero.
Thanks,
Mucho
everybody.
dinero.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.